Then in Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Tulane Green Wave, a team that went 12-2 overall in the 2022 season. What a turnaround this team had from 2021 to 2022. This was a 2-10 football team a couple of years ago. And they had low expectations looking forward to 2022, and this team turns out to get 12 wins last year, conference champion, and they go to the Cotton Bowl and beat USC. What a season for this team. Proudly being 2023, and what can we expect out of Tulane this upcoming season? That's what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. Once again, the record being 12-2, and first 10-plus win season for this team since 1998. It's been a while since this team has been a national contender, and they were very much, I would say they were very much that in 2023. Made it to the New Year's Six, won the American. Really an outstanding season for this team and for a team that had such low expectations as well. But you beat UMass week one, nice win there, and took care of them no problem, beat Alcorn State, and then went on the road to Kansas State. And this is a matchup that, looking back to mid-September, both Tulane and Kansas State were not really thought of to be good teams at that point in the season. Both teams with low expectations. Kansas State had some elevated expectations, nothing too crazy, but you think back to that matchup. Turns out K-State and Tulane, two of the top 15, top 10 teams in the country last year when it came down to it in the end, and Kansas State won the Big 12. It's crazy to see how that game aged. And Tulane beating K-State, it looked like a terrible loss for K-State at the time, but it truly wasn't. It was a low-scoring matchup, 17-10, and what a game that turned out to be. Lost to Southern Miss the next week, 27-24. That was one of two losses that this team took. Also lost to UCF down the stretch, 38-31. So, this team didn't take a loss more than a touchdown last year. Beat Houston on the road in overtime, beat East Carolina 24-9, took care of South Florida, beat Memphis 38-28, beat Tulsa on the road by a couple of touchdowns. Obviously, the dominant win over SMU, 59-24, beat Cincinnati on the road, 27-24. So this team was 10-2 heading into the postseason. Had a rematch against UCF in the American Championship, beat them 45-28, which set them up in the Cotton Bowl against USC, which USC last year could have made a strong argument that they had the best offense in the country. Caleb Williams, they were stacked all around, and Tulane, they allowed 45 points there, but they were able to take advantage of a poor USC defense. That's really what came back to bite the Trojans last season. And Tulane, offensively strong, they got it done 46-45. What a game that was there, and a capper to an incredible season for this team. 12-2 was the record in the end. But with that, let's take a look at the returning production now as we look forward to 2023. And this team will be different in multiple areas. Offensively, you got Michael Pratt coming back, who last season was overall a great quarterback. 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 5 picks, a 64% completion rate. Impressive season for him. And you also got to remember, though, Tyjae Spears truly had an incredible impact on this team last year. 1,800 total yards, 21 touchdowns, an insane season for him. One of the lead rushers in the country. So it's going to be tough losing him. He is off to the NFL, and so now it's on to Shadi Clayton Johnson, Iverson Celestine. So both of them were behind Spears last season, combined for right around 800 yards of total offense, 11 touchdowns. So it is tough losing Spears, and that's going to be interesting to see how this backfield is able to deal with that, because of, he was just such a significant part of this offense last year, so it's going to be tough losing him. But Shea Wyatt's gone, Deuce Watts is gone, top two wideouts for this team. Jaquan Jackson's coming back, the third wideout for this team, so it's good having him coming back, but of course losing your top two is going to be tough. You also lose your fourth in receiving from last season, your top tight end in Tyrick James. You lose two on the offensive line, one on the D line, two linebackers, and then three in the secondary. So the defensive secondary loses a few key players, but otherwise defensively there's still a lot of potential here. And this defense was generally, it was really the offense that shined for the most part last season, but there were times as well where this defense really showed out. Against Kansas State, allowed 10 to them. That really aged well, and allowed 9 to East Carolina. So, this is a team with a lot of potential. Looking forward to 2023. Can they return to contention this season? I think so for sure. This is a team that is built to win right now. I think having Michael Pratt coming back as well is huge, having the leader of the offense back. And I mean, obviously it worked out last season, and there's also a lot of key players coming back defensively. So I think that's going to be enough for this team, especially in the American Conference that is, I mean, losing Cincinnati and UCF and Houston, three of the top teams in the conference in recent time. I mean, it's going to be a different conference this season, and I think Tulane is very much a team that can take advantage of that and become maybe a true power of the American moving forward. So they're definitely the team to beat, I'd say. And your transfer portal and recruiting, McDougal is off in the transfer portal, receiver from last season. You do bring in Dante Fleming from Louisiana, expect him to have an immediate impact. Cameron Wires also coming in from LSU. He's expected to be a starter. You lose Carlos Hatcher to Coastal Carolina. Pettis Clo is coming in from Louisiana, defensive back. And then you're also bringing in A.J. Hampton from Northwestern for the defensive secondary. Recruiting-wise, 71st in the nation, 4th in the American. So your top 4 in the conference, which is good. I got 18 3-stars coming in. The future's bright for this team. I mean, the American, once again, is very much a wide-open conference now, especially with Cincinnati and Houston and UCF all gone. I mean, those 3 teams. I mean, Houston's kind of been all over the place, but Cincinnati's been a consistent contender. They were just in the college football playoff a couple of years ago, and Tulane, I think, can take advantage of that. I mean, it's going to be, I mean, it's still not going to be easy, but I do think this is a team that's in a good position right now to take over and be a consistent power of the conference moving forward. And with that, let's take a look at the schedule. And as we look forward to 2023, got South Alabama week 1. And they could be halfway decent in 2023, so I wouldn't sleep on that matchup there. South Alabama is a beatable team, but don't want to sleep on that one. Then Ole Miss, you get a big opportunity there taking on a team that could very well be in the top 20 heading into week 2. And then Southern Miss on the road, Nichols at home, you got UAB at home. Then you got your bye week, and then it's off to Memphis on a Friday night, the North Texas at home, Rice on the road, got East Carolina on the road, Tulsa at home. Got FAU on the road. They could be pretty good. Same with UTSA. So, I mean, definitely a couple of challenging matchups to finish out the season there. And it's kind of the first 2 games and the last 2 games. Definitely your some of your toughest matchups of the season. But looking at September, South Alabama, I do think you beat them. Close one, but you get it done. Ole Miss, I think, is a beatable team for Tulane. But I do think Ole Miss steals one in the end. That's one that could totally go either way. And probably one of the sneaky good non-conference matchups in early September. And Ole Miss has been really a solid team the past couple of years, like what they're doing. I think it continues in 2023, and they end up beating Tulane there. Got Southern Miss on the road, Nichols, both easier wins here. I do think you take care of both teams pretty easily. So you're 3-1 heading into the UAB matchup, which UAB definitely a beatable team as well. Get it done against them. Memphis on the road. This is one that could go either way. Memphis should be one of the top teams in the conference. I wouldn't be surprised. And Friday night as well. So I'm going to take Tulane. I think Tulane's the better team, but definitely a matchup that could go either way. That's probably the toughest matchup of the midseason for sure. And then North Texas and Rice, both very beatable teams. Get it done against them. North Texas actually could be maybe decent, but I do think you got them at home. Should beat them. So that puts you at 7-1 heading into November. Got East Carolina on the road, which I do think this is maybe a sneaky one here. It could go either way. Maybe this is a spot where Tulane trips up, but I do think you beat them in a close one on the road. Then Tulsa at home, beat them no problem. FAU on the road. This is one that kind of could go either way as well. FAU should be a solid team in 2023. I think that that's a team to keep an eye on. I do think you lose to either Memphis or FAU. I don't think you lose both games, but you're going to lose one of them. And then also to Ole Miss and then UTSA. Could be a close one as well, but I do think you win that one to finish out the regular season. UTSA should be halfway decent as well in 2023. So I got 10-2 for Tulane this upcoming season, though I will say the ceiling is 12-0 for this team. They are capable of being undefeated this season, and this is a team that's built to win right now. Maybe we get surprised and this team isn't quite as good as expected. In that case, I think 7-5 is the floor. I'd be pretty disappointed if this team wasn't at least 7-5 this season. They're too talented to miss a bowl game just based on how this team was last year. But 10-2 for the prediction. Wouldn't be surprised if this was the conference champion once again and went back to the New Year's Six. That is very much within possibility for this team, but obviously you can't forget about like FAU and UTSA and Memphis, all teams, even SMU. This team doesn't play SMU, but they could very well be in that conversation as well, of being one of the top teams in the conference. So, I mean, it's still a competitive conference. Tulane's definitely the favorite, and it's definitely an interesting team to keep an eye on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this team, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.